Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Leigh. Very privileged today to have Josh Oster with me, who is a teacher, a musician, a songwriter, a poet, a fellow Shepherd University person. I don't know what the correct word would be for that. Shepherdstonian from the university. That works. And very excited to have him for this episode. And we're going to hear about some of the new poetry he's written, what's coming out, his favorite story, tea, my favorite story. And I have my sleepy Pikachu today as my little desk, and our exciting news segment from this News Breaks book, which are horrible jokes from the 1980s. So I'm very excited for that. So I will stop talking. And Josh, the floor is yours. Please tell us everything we need to know about you in 10 to 15 minutes or more.
Leigh, thanks for having me, first of all. My name's Josh Oster. I'm from Hedgesville, West Virginia. Originally, I've grown up in this area pretty much my entire life. I was born in Hagerstown and graduated from Hedgesville High School in 2009. Went on, like you said, to Shepherd to pursue my undergrad. I graduated in 2014. And then in between that, I just worked, small various jobs. I worked with my dad for a little bit. And then in between all of that, I worked on, becoming a teacher. I was a substitute for a little while, and then I ended up getting my license to, become a professional teacher. And that's pretty much what I've been doing ever since, between that and songwriting and writing poetry and teaching creative writing and, teaching kids to, become poets themselves. So it's been a pretty cool and rewarding experience. Other than that, there's not really too much else to know as far as my bio.
That is the shortest tell me about your segment we have had yet. So I will supplement it and ask more questions than had been planned. So I'll ask a couple questions that are not on the cheat sheet to start. So this was proposed by someone who was religiously listening to the podcast and then all of a sudden decided that as a teenager she's too cool to listen to my podcast. So hopefully she will listen to it again. I know. What is your favorite film/movie and why?
So this is funny because I was listening to a few of your podcasts before I came on, and this question came up, and I'm like, I knew exactly what I was going to say. All-time favorite movie, Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, hands down. I think that's my favorite of the entire Skywalker saga films. So yeah, that one hands down. I'm a big sci-fi, I guess, viewer, critic, nerd, whatever. Fan. Yeah, there we go. We're finding the words. But so yeah, Star Wars for sure has always been my thing. I got into the Dune series not too long ago. I haven't seen the second film yet, but I'm really into the Dune films and the books. I've read the first 3 books. So yeah, that would be right up my alley. How about you, Leigh?
So, well, I'll answer that, but I'd have to mention. So, we have on this podcast explored my irrational fear of space because I don't understand space and things that I don't understand, like MAGA people, make me very nervous. I just got very political. I'm sorry. So I don't understand space, so I get nervous. And I've not seen any of the Star Wars films. And I do from time to time get cultural references involving Star Wars and Star Trek confused. And it's not an act. I don't understand. So I have to say that. Although I understand that Star Wars is an amazing adventure, and Dune scares me because I don't know if it actually involves giant sandworms, but from the cover of one of the books, it seems like it involves sandworms.
Yeah, it does involve giant sandworms, and I think the cool thing though about space and like about Star Wars though is for me it's always been like this form of escapism, right? It's something that kind of takes you from like your everyday like mundane real world for a while, and then puts you in this completely like whole entire world building environment. I mean, there's different planets, there's different characters. So it's just a really cool, like I said, form of escapism for me.
I think for me that used to be like the various X-Men cartoons,
Oh yeah, the '90s
Spider-Man,
ones.
and the remake was it X-Men '97. Season 2 is coming out soon.
Yeah,
I'm very excited, although it's far more violent than I was anticipating, so I'm a little upset about that.
yeah, I haven't seen it.
They're killing people. So I have delineated two films in past episodes. One being Sister Act, because who doesn't love Whoopi Goldberg, Maggie Smith, and a group of nuns revitalizing a community whilst having fun? The second was not really a favorite film, but one that I feel as though people need to be more aware of, and that's Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which go back and listen. This isn't like a command to you, it's to everyone listening, but go back and listen to the episode with Stefan, and that sort of explains that, why I feel like it might be problematic now, but for its time, I feel like it was, it pushed people to look at things a different way. So I would say for this episode, I'm going to go with an old favorite, and this is going to be super, 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 super embarrassing, but I'm going to say it. It's not the film, but it's the why. The Outsiders.
Oh, nice.
I love The
Yeah.
Outsiders. One of my friends who I went through elementary, middle school with went to a different high school than I did, and her high school read The Outsiders, and it was not included in our curriculum. But I found it in the library at our school and read it, and I was just like, well, this is amazing. I didn't know books like this existed, because I was sort of one of those horribly obnoxious and pretentious children who went from like the Hardy Boys to Charles Dickens, and I thought there was like no in between. And anything about Dickensian workhouses was great for my 13-year-old soul. But the problem when I first saw this is so embarrassing. When I first saw The Outsiders, I had been diagnosed with anxiety issues. So I'm like, I'm going to watch a film that I've never seen that's based upon a book that I like. And one of the side effects of my anxiety was that I would get like horrible, not really like indigestion, but I would just have like, because I would feel sick all the time and nervous, I would feel sick to my stomach, like you kind of do when you get nervous. So I told that to one of my friends, who is someone who I think you may or may not know, who also went to Shepherd, and it happened to be her sister's favorite film. Well, she conflated that from me saying that when I was watching it, I was having a lot of anxiety attacks and I felt kind of sick, but it was this great film. She conflated that to then tell everyone that watching The Outsiders caused my fictional IBS to kick up.
Oh wow.
So that's not really true, but if anyone's heard that story, I can tell you the source. So I've just totally embarrassed myself 8 minutes in by talking about the film The Outsiders. But it is amazing. And to me, the fact that it was written by someone, or the book, when she was like 13 or 14,
Yeah.
it's just great. And from Oklahoma. So, another sort of fun question. I understand that you have some animals.
I do have some animals.
So tell us about your animals.
So I am I guess you could say proud cat dad. I have three cats: Freya, Loki, and Thor. They're all, obviously named after Norse Norse gods and goddesses. So we ended up getting the three of them. Actually, it started with Freya and Loki. Before we had them, we had a hedgehog named Tilly, and we had her for a few years. And this is actually based on a poem, and well, one of my poems is based off this. But she died a few years ago, and after she died, I was like, I'm swearing off pets. I don't want another pet. I don't want a cat, a dog, whatever. Because before her, we had a dog, and that didn't work out either. So it was just this whole constant it felt like I personally, I kept failing with pets because they're a big responsibility. You have to take care of them and their family. But when we went to the Humane Society, and I will always say, I'm always like a proponent of adopting shelter pets because they carry a story that we'll never know, and I think that's really really important. But anyway, not to get sidetracked, but we saw Freya, and she was a 10-week-old kitten. Yeah, so we took her home, And yeah, I'm sure you've seen my pictures of her on Facebook. I mean, she was, well, she still is, the most beautiful, adorable cat ever. So, but then after that, she kind of started acting up, and it was kind of like, not in a bad way, but you could tell like she wanted like a friend. I don't know if you've been, had that happen with like cats before, but it's like she was just very, very energetic. So I was like, one cat, that's it. But then all of a sudden, we're back at the Humane Society again, and that's when we got Loki. And he's a little tuxedo cat, and I don't know if you've seen like tuxedo cat videos, but they're he's a good cat, but he can be ornery, I guess is the best word to describe him. And then Thor came along just out of happenstance. We were once again back at the same place, and they all. I guess the cool thing about all three of these cats is that they all kind of picked us. We weren't necessarily looking for a certain breed of cat or a certain temperament. We were just looking for people or cats to fill out our family, and we're very lucky that we got to do that. And they're they're the sweetest cats that we've ever had. So
I miss having a cat because I had a very large yellow cat who was actually my dad's, and then when my dad passed away, I mean, we were living in the same house, so obviously I guess it was our cat, I don't know, but I miss having a cat, but at the same time I don't, because I always felt guilty for leaving him home alone if I had to go to work or if I was gone for 12 hours or something, even though he was perfectly fine. So I just carried this guilt, which is Catholic school graduate common. But I think that eventually I will get another cat. I would love to have an Irish Wolfhound, but
oh,
I
me
think I'm going to
too.
have to retire.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what we kind of decided too. It's like dogs. I love dogs. Like I would love to have another dog, but I would have to be home all of the time. It's a I feel like with cats, especially if you have two of them to keep each other company, you can leave them for hours. Obviously not too long, but like, and they're fine because they bond with each other. So
and I think my cat had kind of gotten used to it because, like I said, he was my dad's cat. My dad had a stroke. And then over the 2 years after his stroke, there were periods where he would be in the hospital for a period of time. And then I would be like from, I don't know, 10 to 7 at the hospital before I would come home. So I think the cat kind of got used to periods of time. It was a big fan of Judge Judy, so I often left that on the television for him. But, and then the pandemic happened, and of course, I was home all the time. So I think he got kind of attached to me. But he was also somewhat, I guess, honorary in that whenever there was some sort of container, he would have to tip it over. So any sort of water glass, anything, it just had to be knocked over.
yeah.
So that wasn't great, but what can you do? So, oh, and I was going to mention, I got this because it keeps water from getting in my beard when I'm drinking, and you as a fellow beard person.
Mm-hmm.
This shaker cup is a holdover from when I was trying to be healthy for 8 months. And now I just use it for water when my beard's a little bit long so I don't get. I didn't want people when I was drinking water to think I was being pretentious and like, oh, look, because clearly I don't look like the type of person who,
We're
would have
we're
that.
we're a big we use a lot of brewmate products. I don't know if you've ever used those before. They're I believe they're a German company, but
Hmm.
they're like in my opinion they're like a step up from Stanley because you can order like replacement parts for them, and like I have a water cup that has like the actual straw that actually comes apart, and you can clean everything out so it doesn't like get mold and
Hmm.
all that in it. So
Yeah, I'm not that sophisticated. I just have a bunch of like glasses and then this thing. Although I do have, see, my complaint. Okay, we're going to get into the weeds here. My complaint with a lot of containers such as that is that they're too small, or the next size up looks obnoxious, like you're carrying around a gallon jug. So I have a couple of bottles which are insulated. One North Coffee Company in Mercersburg. I have yours sponsorship. And then I have, I don't know, another one. But they're too small. And, like, to me, this is almost too small. So I feel like I am consuming too much liquid. And I'm not diabetic. So it's not that. So I think it's just some sort of psychological thing.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
I'll investigate. The
Yeah,
Brewmaster. I
yeah.
also have the, we'll get to this later, but my little Scooby Doo mystery machine mug.
You have all kinds of fun cups.
I do. See, I don't have children. Well, you don't have children
Yeah.
either, I'm assuming, unless they're hidden. But I have to keep the whimsy in the household. So
That
I have uh, mugs and plushies and other random things. I don't know. When you look like I do, you shouldn't go in a toy store by yourself. But I make an exception sometimes, where 10 o'clock at night, I'm ordering, you know, I don't know, this thing. It's a little capybara wearing a chef's hat.
Oh, I like that.
So I actually didn't order this. This came from CVS. I went in to get sleeping pills because I can't sleep because I'm just a wreck all the time. And this literally fell off the shelf as I was walking by.
It was
And
fate.
of course, being a nice person, I'm like, well, I need to pick this up. But then I'm like, oh, it's a capybara. How can I not buy it?
It was meant to be.
It was. So you talked a little bit about Dune, but obviously as a writer, one of the quotations I love from a creative writing professor who used to be at Shepherd, and I'm not going to get it correct, but it's the crux of it is that as writers we read so we can steal, but steal in a loving way. So who do you read who you find influencing your own work, or do you find people who you read who influence your own work?
So yeah, for the longest time, and I maybe still to this day, I'm not. I mean, I'm always more of a poetry writer than I am like a fiction writer. But Ray Bradbury had always been a big influence on me, and again, going with like the whole science fiction thing. I've as far as like poets go, I would say probably poets like Jose Oliveras was a big influence on my first book. I don't know if you've heard of Randy Ward, but she was also her book Whip Stitches was also another big influence on my first book. As far as what I liked about hers was the short, like succinct style, and I wanted to kind of emulate that in some of my poems. So I would say those two were big influences on me for that book. Yeah, those are the three writers that come to mind.
As this is a podcast all about stories, I have a Randy Ward story
Oh, nice.
about her book, Whip Stitches. And it was when I was working at Four Seasons Books, which is an independent bookstore in Shepherdstown. And she came to the town for the Appalachian Heritage Festival. I don't know if she was participating in some way or just there. But the owner of Four Seasons, I guess, had indicated to her, please bring a box of your books and we'll have them throughout the period of time you're here and you can sign them, all of that. So and for anyone who's been to Four Seasons, it's not like a sliding glass door. They are two very narrow, old-fashioned doors that if you're wearing like a backpack, or if you're pretty much like your shoulders are any broader than mine, you're going to bang into something. So I don't know what I was doing, presumably, hopefully helping someone. And then there's this poor lady with this gigantic box trying to get in the door. And I just like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me let you in. And she was like struggling with this box. She's like, oh, I had to park, 2 blocks away. Turned out it was Randy Ward.
Oh my gosh.
So
So I actually got to meet Randy Ward a couple years ago. So our school does what's called Poetry Out Loud. Basically it's a national poem recitation contest where students will learn a poem from the website, they memorize it, and then we have a school winner who goes to Charleston every year to compete. But she's one of the guest judges, and I got to meet her one year, and lovely person. So that's my Randy Ward story.
So I have another meeting a poet story that also involves Shepherd. So because I'm very old, graybeard, when I was first at Shepherd, there was a poetry festival called Sotto Voce that Dr. Hope Maxwell Snyder founded. She had been a professor at Shepherd, and I think she taught Spanish, but also a poet, a novelist, a playwright. And I'm not sure if she started Sotto Voce when she was still on the faculty or if after she had left. But it was this amazing, maybe 2 day event where really sort of, prominent poets, I mean, not like Maya Angelou, but, still prominent poets would come to Shepherdstown. Students and community members were able to interact with them, hear readings, interact, one on one. It was phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal event. So she had Natasha Trethewey come one year, who is one of my absolute favorite poets. She has written several collections, and eventually became the poet laureate of the United States. And this is before that. So anyway, Sotto Voce was always in the Bird Center, which the auditorium holds about 100 and some odd people, but it was always packed. So I remember having gone after class to one of these events, and Natasha Trethewey was coming into the Bird Center as I was, I don't know, walking in or leaving. For some reason, I bumped into her and she dropped her purse and like stuff fell out of her. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I had no idea who she was. And I was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, no, 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 it's fine. And, she collected her things, went on her way. Then, of course, she read. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I bumped into this amazing poet who really, can't say enough nice things about. Dr. Mark Cantrell used her book, Native Guard, in several classes. It's amazing. Please read it if you haven't. Not a command to you, but to anyone who's listening, please read this book. And I thought, oh, I bumped into this lady and I knocked her purse over. Then Dr. Elsie, the amazing Dr. Elsie, who has been a subject of other stories on this podcast, took a small group of us to the Library of Congress, where Natasha Trethewey was now the national poet. And I got to meet her again, and I'm like, I'm just going to tell you the story that I have about you. And of course, again, looking like I do when you tell someone that, they're like, oh God, what's this about this person? It has to be crazy, something wrong with them. But I told her about it. She's like, well, I remember going to Shepherdstown, but I don't remember. I'm like, well, there's no reason for you to remember that some weird kid, because I think that's when I had like really long hair and looked homeless, bumped into you and knocked over your purse. She's like, well, no, but I remember I had a lovely time in Shepherdstown. So that's my Natasha Trethewey story.
I think that's cool. Like when everyone says like don't meet your heroes, but when you have like a positive experience like that, I don't know, just make it worth it.
A couple summers ago, I met Kyle Prue. Amazing. Do you know Kyle Prue?
I don't think so.
So he has a long-running TikTok series, and it's on Instagram, that was made into a book, which is called Things You Can Say to Piss Off Men. So it's sort of like
I love it already.
Well, I mean, he's amazing. So and again, I won't get it verbatim, but one of the absolute best ones that he does, and I'm giving him attribution. Kyle, don't sue me. We're on first name terms. One of them is texting or saying to someone something to the equivalent of, is fantasy football like having a Tamagotchi? Or going up to someone and saying, like, your truck is really high off the ground. Do you need me to get a mechanic to explain to you why it's too high off the ground?
Oh, man.
He has much better ones, but it's basically about combating toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was amazing. So I did meet one hero, and he's taller than I expected in person. But other than that, everything was fine.
There you go.
So, and wonderful mother. His mother's a lovely person. Because, I usually commune with people who are approximately my age, their parents.
All
So
right. that's
my crowd.
Yeah. So my wife and I have had a chance to like meet a few celebrities, but I'll save that for like later in the podcast when we get to other stories. But
I mean, I would say that I've met very few celebrities other than politicians who, I'm not really sure that they're celebrities. I did meet Barack Obama and rode on the U.S. Senate subway with him once.
Oh, nice.
Which was fine. Joe Biden touched me on the shoulder and his face came beside me, which was kind of strange because there were two of us sitting in the gallery of the Senate, and this was when I guess he would have been vice president. He put his hands on my shoulder and the person next to me to lean forward to talk to someone in the next aisle. So that was fun. And I once stood next to Ted Kennedy.
Wow.
That's it. Very nice person. He had an amazing dog. I've digressed. So another fun question, and then we will have our tea break. if you had the ability to change anything, absolutely anything about yourself, what would it be? Or would you change anything?
So if I could change anything about myself, what would it be, or would I change? I honestly, I don't know if I would. That sounds kind of pretentious now that I'm thinking about it, but I don't know. I feel like I could spend all my days like wondering about what I could change, but there's not really. I don't know. I don't really see a point. I think where I've come so far in life. I feel for the most part successful. I'm pretty happy, content. I would say maybe I would change, you know, maybe my music ability. Maybe start like I don't know. It's like more like getting out there and playing more. Maybe I would change that. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. Pretty content.
You're very well adjusted.
I try
So
to
I
be.
have like a 40, column list, wouldn't have the bald spot, gray, and wouldn't be in the beard yet. I'd be like an inch and a half taller. I wouldn't have the inability to fall asleep without sometimes the assistance of pharmaceuticals because I just can't. I don't have sleep apnea. No one needs to text or email me and say, "Are you sure you don't have sleep apnea?" I don't. Uh, so I appreciate how confident and adjusted you are, and it makes up for my lack of both.
I think though that teaching has done that though at the same time because teaching is a very like self-reflective practice when you get into it because you're always thinking like, well, I could have done this better in a lesson, or you're worrying or having anxiety like, well, how is this new lesson going to go? And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you're giving it your best, you're giving it your all. And if something doesn't work out, that's okay. You have to adjust and you have to have a plan B on the fly. And I guess it's just been all of those years of that constant like repetition and adjusting and reflecting. It's just kind of culminated all of that.
So, one of the reasons that I decided to start a podcast, well, the main reason is because I love stories, telling, hearing, telling again over and over and over. But also, I hate the sound of my voice and I hate being on camera or in pictures. So, I thought this is a way for me to potentially get over both of those things. Or even if I don't get over it, I have no choice because I can't say, "Oh, I'm going to start a podcast," and then not do it because I know enough people who would ridicule me for the rest of my life, saying, "Haha, you didn't do it."
Yeah.
So I have amazing friends. So this is sort of, I guess, part of that for me as well. But I don't have like 18 teenagers, you know, staring at me while they're sticking pencils up their noses or something. I'm sure your students don't do that. I'm sure they're wonderful, but
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, they are. They're the best. I'm really lucky. Um, a lot of people would be like, I think the misconception is like, oh, teaching's so hard, but I think there are multiple reasons outside. Like the kids have never been the problem. Like I'm very lucky. We have great conversations. We have great. We're all learning together. And I think the issues that we have in education come from a much higher level. So
yeah, I mean, my mom taught for 3 different spells, sort of in her professional life, and she loved teaching, and she she taught for a period of time at what was then called the Alternative School, which now in Jefferson County is the Martin Delaney Opportunity Learning Center. But her only regret was while she taught there, which was almost for a decade, her background was in social studies and Spanish, and they had her teach science and math. So the first time she taught something, she said, "All I have to do is stay like 2 pages ahead of the students, and I'm fine."
mm-hmm.
So that was interesting for her, but I think at the end of the day, she loved it. So I think you can really tell if people enjoy. You can tell if people are suited to teaching by whether or not they enjoy it. Because I'd hate to have a job that I would go to for 30 years where I hate every moment of it.
Well, yeah, and I also think you can go to school to be a teacher, and you can learn all of like the strategies. You can learn everything about behavioral development, but I feel like until you're in there for a couple of years, I think there's things that you don't necessarily learn from like a college setting that you learn from those kids in the moment, and it's a pretty powerful and it's also a super humbling thing at the same time. So,
Okay, so one more quick tiny story, and then tea time,
all
tea
right.
break. Dr. Sherbet, Dr. Sylvia Bailey Sherbet, the wonderful Dr. Sherbet. I'm a big fan.
Yep.
She used to do a lot of the student teaching. She was involved in the English education
Yeah.
program. I don't know the ins and outs, but she was involved. So a friend of mine was doing an MAT program, and I will use they because I don't want to reveal this person's gender because people may know possibly who I'm referencing. Well, people who know me. So this person was in their student teaching setting and was teaching high school English, and the students were very raucous for some reason. And Dr. Sherbet called the classroom phone, I guess to check in or see, what was going on. And this particular person, like, answered the phone already a little harried because, like I said, there was something going on, I don't know. And they're like, hello. And it's like, oh, this, and I can't do her accent, and I would never try. And I love Dr. Sherbet's accent. I love to hear her read. But she
Yeah.
has a very specific, Georgia accent.
Absolutely.
And this person could do the accent. And it was like, oh, this is, Dr. Sylvia Bailey Sherbet calling. Is this, so and so? And the person's like, yes, how can I help you? Like, I don't know, they're at a call center or something. And she was like, oh, well, I'm just checking in, just want to see how everything is. And the person's like, I'm losing control. I can't talk now, and hung up and slam the phone
Oh
down.
no.
Because I guess the students were getting more out of control because the person's on the phone. And so that person just recounted that story multiple times. Like, I was trying to keep my class under control, and here comes, Dr. Sherbet calling on the classroom phone like in the middle of the lesson, and I have to answer the phone, and it's just like started panicking and saying, I'm losing control, and just hung up the phone. So anyway,
Oh,
I've always
my.
enjoyed that story. Tea break. So, for those who are listening for the first time, we talk about. I just said tea break too aggressively. That's like all I'm about now. I share the tea that I'm drinking, and I'm being boring today. I'm having peppermint tea again, which I had in a previous episode, but as I said, it's in my little Scooby Doo mug here. And I don't like the tea to be extremely hot, so this might actually be tolerable now. So, Josh, are you a tea drinker?
So, sometimes my tea of choice is a good chai tea with honey. I'm also a fan of lemon echinacea tea when I'm sick. It's a very good like throat coat tea. If I'm not drinking that, I am always, you can always see me with like a thing of black coffee. I put honey in that too. Yeah.
I'm not one for honey.
So
I don't know why.
I think like being a vocalist and like singing and like and then talking all day, teaching and things like that. That's where I got it from. There's a really good honey. Have you ever heard of Manuka honey?
All I've ever like the little bear.
So
That's the extent of mine.
so one of my favorite singer songwriters, Dallas Green. He was in a band called Alexis on Fire, but then he does some solo stuff called City and Color. I was watching an interview with him one time, and he talked about like this honey called Manuka honey, and it's a honey from New Zealand that apparently blooms from like comes from like a specific flower, but it has like healing medicinal properties in it, and it's supposed to be like a really good coating for your throat. So he always put that in his tea, and he said he would take like spoonfuls of it. So that's where I got it from, and it's expensive. Like if you go to like a Whole Foods store or somewhere like that, I think you're paying like $8 to $15. I mean, I know honey's expensive to begin with, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Well, if you ever need me to go to New Zealand and pick up some for you,
I,
let me know.
I'll let you know. You can also say hi to Tamora Morrison for me.
Okay.
You know who he is?
Why not? No, but I'm going to go find Jacinda Ardern.
He's a famous actor.
They're like, I love your book. Oh.
Yeah.
What was he in? Or in what was he?
Oh well, he played Boba Fett in Star Wars.
Oh, no.
Yeah. See, you gotta watch. See this. You're gonna have to watch Star Wars now to know who he is. But he was.
Uh,
Did you see the Aquaman movies?
no.
I think he was in those as well.
I mean, I'm aware of them, and I've seen at least a good third of the Justice League film just on TikTok and clips. So Aquaman was in that. So I have a cousin who has an apiary. So, like, oh, I could get free honey, but I don't like honey. So it's like of no. I mean, she's a wonderful cousin, but I'm like, it's of no benefit to me. Why can't you have like a bookstore or a like Coca-Cola fountain in the middle of the road that I can just stop by? That's my one chemical vice, as I've said before. That I don't smoke, I don't drink, I'm not one for recreational drugs, but I have to occasionally, every day, have Coca-Cola, and it really needs to come from McDonald's because that's the only place that has good Coca-Cola.
That's fair.
So
That's like coffee, like McDonald's coffee, or if or Dunkin' coffee. Like those are always my like two go tos. If I can't get Dunkin', I'm gonna go to McDonald's.
although I'm very upset that I accumulate all of these points on their app, and there is not a free soda beverage choice.
Really?
It's like hamburger this and potatoes that and ice cream. I'm like, where's the McDonald's? If you're listening, you need to update your app. 1,500 points should get me a large Coke, please. Thank you.
100%.
What is your favorite beverage?
My favorite beverage. Let's see. Probably still coffee. Like I'm a big coffee drinker. Um, that's pretty much my go-to. Water, good old H2. I'm very like I don't know. I'm not like super like I don't know. I don't get like very fancy drinks.
Stefan, if you're listening, here's another potential customer. So Stefan now has a coffee roasting business.
Oh, cool.
That I'm assuming he runs it out of his house. I mean, it's like where he is. So
Yeah.
there you go. And he told me the name, and I can't remember it, so I'm a horrible friend. I also didn't know he had 2 children. That's why I sort of said, "You don't have children, do you?" As I've recounted in nearly every episode, and I'll recount again now, I forgot the name of my only godchild. And it was so embarrassing because I had to go back through texts from like 6 months to find the text where it says like, "Oh, this person was born. Here's their name." And you know what the worst part of it is? Guess.
It's an easy name. Is it an easy name to remember?
No, it's actually a slightly uncommon first name, but the middle name is Leigh.
Is it spelled the same way?
No. But still,
It's still,
it sounds the same
yeah,
way.
still.
So that was embarrassing, but what can you do? So you also have to answer this question, please, where it's a continuing running question. Are you a sweet tea person or an unsweet tea person if you have to have iced tea?
All right. So, if you were to ask me this question back in like 2013, I probably would have said sweet tea. I drink neither now. But I guess if I was to, if I had to pick one, probably unsweet.
We're winning.
Yeah.
Although my guest yesterday, Councilman Nate Hartman, I'm going to have to, and apologies, Nate, if I'm remembering incorrectly, but I believe that he said lightly sweet or something, or sweetened. I'm like, there's no middle ground, it's one or the other. So,
Yeah. I mean, I
fuzzying up.
I keep going back to like McDonald's, like the sweet tea there. I don't know. It's just like so sweet. Like,
So, there have been times when, because of my often talked about like anxiety issues, I'll think I probably shouldn't have caffeine. But if I feel like I need something, and maybe psychologically I'm going to the place where I would normally get Coca-Cola, so maybe it's going to satiate that desire, I will from time to time get iced tea. And if it's sweet, that is the only time that I will get right back in the line or go right back in and say, "I'm sorry, I can't. This doesn't work."
yeah.
It's so horrible.
Well, that reminds me of the one time that my wife and I went through the drive-through, and again, I'm like a strictly like hot black coffee drinker, but for some reason, we must have gotten someone's order by mistake, but it was like
Mm.
3 pumps of sugar and like 18,000 pumps of creamer, and I took a sip of it, and I think there was also like brown sugar in there, which I don't know who's putting brown sugar in their coffee, but if you're listening, that's crazy. But it was ridiculous, and I don't know. I feel like it could have been like an alternate fuel source. Like it was like that crazy.
So I'm not one for like drip coffee. I'll drink lattes, and I mean from time to time maybe a shot of espresso. But I have a rule, and I follow former North Dakota U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp's rule. If it is not 0 degrees outside or colder, it has to be iced. If it's below 0 degrees, I guess I can have a hot latte. So, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. See, it was like what almost 90 degrees today, and I'm like still drinking hot coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today was horrible, but oh, I know. I will share because I've not done this yet. My coffee shop order: decaf latte, iced, extra shot, oat milk. So if anyone wants to just like show up at the library with a random iced latte, there's the order. Thank you in advance. Or ginger ale. That's my other vice. So we are currently winning on the unsweet tea side. So thank you. You are also every guest I've had, with the exception of Nate Hartman, has facial hair.
Oh, well, there you go.
So everyone. So my first guest, Jackson, he I don't think has a full beard. I think because we've never actually met and there was no video component, but just from like interaction on social media, he has facial hair but not a full beard. But everyone except Stefan shaved in between the episodes. I'm like, what is this? And then he read a poem about plucking, and I'm like, did you pluck all of your beard hair?
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't probably do that. So that's our tea segment. A couple more questions, and these are perhaps slightly less frivolous, although there is fun and frivolity. So, when you started at Shepherd, did you imagine that you would wind up completing your degree and then eventually ending up in the classroom?
No, actually, when I first started at Shepherd, I was a music major. My whole thing was that when I got out, I wanted to perform music. I wanted to be on stage. I felt like that was where I was the most comfortable. Because when you're performing music, it feels like you can. It's kind of like I've never acted before in my life, but I feel like it would be like that. You get to you get to take on a persona that's not yourself, if that makes sense. You don't have to worry about like judgment from the crowd. You go up there just doing your thing. So I wanted to be, I wanted to perform music. I guess what I realized, and the truth came really hard to me, like that first semester, was that it's pretty competitive. You're practicing every day. I know some music majors who were practicing, oh my gosh, like 8 to 10 hours, and it wasn't what I wanted. Not a knock to them, but I realized like I could still play music and I can still do something else. So that's when I switched majors to English, and I was like, well, I'm going to try writing. I'm going to give that a shot. The whole classroom thing, the whole teaching thing, that came completely, I guess, out of nowhere, really. One day I was just helping my sister work on some essays for school. She was in some advanced placement classes, some higher level classes, and she was doing well with her writing. And I was helping her, kind of like, I guess, tutor, coach, whatever. And I was like, well, if I can, help her, she was getting A's and B's. Like, if I can do that for her, what can I do for a classroom of 30 kids? So, I started off as a long-term substitute. I was teaching like, I had classes for like a year at a time. And then, like I said, eventually was able to get my teaching license, luckily, and, have some consistency and, be a permanent, teacher, and again, give that same consistency back to the kids.
So when I was at Shepherd, I did peer tutoring, and at the time, I preferred doing what they called attached tutoring, which was where I think most schools would call it like a very part-time teaching assistant.
Mm-hmm.
But really, all you did was help the students in the class. There wasn't like any component where you were grading things or meeting with them, to discuss large concepts. So I thought that that was probably my favorite part. But then towards the end, I realized that I much preferred like the one-on-one to help people with writing or whatever. I also tutored political science, which like I think I got two people that entire semester. But I don't know. I mean, I can understand there's like sort of a sense of you sort of feel like you're helping, but you're doing it in a way which is equipping people to not need your help. So I
Right.
guess it's like getting yourself out of business.
Well,
So
I don't know because I still think there's always going to be people who need help with writing. You're still going to have students come through, so I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
um, so so many young people are leaving West Virginia, and particularly where we are based in the Eastern Panhandle, it's much more attractive because you can move to Virginia an hour and a half away, and then come home on the weekend to visit like your parents, your friends, whatever. Also, you can be a teacher and go to Maryland, Virginia, even Pennsylvania, and earn five figures more than you're earning here. Why did you choose to stay, or do you have peers who did the same thing who decided to stay in West Virginia and make this, at least for now, your career base versus leaving like so many other young people?
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely have peers who stayed for the same reasons. We love our kids. That's the whole impetus. You're there because you want to build a community. Yes, and income's important. Yes, we have to have benefits. We have to be able to take care of ourselves to take care of our kids. But I think it's the idea of like this deep seated community that we wanted to build, and we wanted to you know love our kids. That's I think that's the best answer that I can give you, is because we wanted to be there. Um, and again, like I said before earlier, I think a lot of the problems that we have as a state, they come from a higher point. I feel like, you know, here in the Panhandle, we're doing everything we can. We're doing the best that we can to, provide resources to, stay, after school to provide, extra help to kids, or, even during the summer, to give families who, may not have, access to food, or, um, you know, um, opportunities, like recreationally. Like I feel like those are all important things, and I wanted to stay because I wanted to be a part of that. So
It's interesting. I was at a candidate forum for Jefferson County school board members, and that election was a couple weeks ago, almost a month now, actually. And one of the questions that was posed to the Board of Education members who were there actually came from someone who I think had been in the classroom maybe 30 years. Was is there any interest in piloting a program that would be a 4 day school week as opposed to 5 day? And I immediately, and I mentioned this because you spoke of it as well, immediately thought, well, what about the students who the only time they're getting hot food is when they're at the school, and then also the childcare aspect. So, I mean, do you find that? I'm not being critical of the person who raised this question, because I mean it's certainly a way to save resources. It's a way to, decrease teacher burnout, and maybe have a more impactful relationship with the students if you're with them for 4 days where they don't get worn out by the fifth. But were you surprised when you went into the classroom the number of students who rely upon the school system for things like food, the opportunity to see a nurse? Was that surprising to you, or did you also already feel it was sort of there?
I definitely feel like it was already sort of there. Um, yeah, I don't I wasn't very surprised by it, just because given, like, again, you know where we are as, again, a state in education. Yeah, it didn't really surprise me much. Um, so
This is a fun one because I may start a podcast just about this. But what is your favorite memory from Canute Hall? And Canute Hall, for those who don't know, is the English building at Shepherd, and they do other stuff there too. But
yeah, favorite memory. I would say it's probably my creative writing classes. I think the believe actually it wasn't a creative writing class. Actually, it was a contemporary literature class I took with Dr. Messenger, and that class got me into like magical realism. We read the Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Murakami, and still to this day, I feel like he's one of my favorite writers, just because I like how he blends like the real world with like fantasy and magic. So that's probably one of my favorite memories. Um, yeah, that's the one that stands out.
I was in that class, and it's the only time I read Murakami,
I like
but I enjoyed the Wind Up Bird Chronicle.
Yeah, so that book got me kind of spurred into like the rest of his stuff, like Kafka and the Shore. Can't remember. Norwegian Wood, I think, is like one of his like standout first novels. So
I remember, and the title of the book's not going to come to me but it's Herta Muller, who
yeah,
Hunger
the
Angel.
Hunger Angel. Yeah,
Yes, I was so cold reading that book because I mean it's if I could have this totally conflated, and Dr. Messenger, if by some chance you listen, I apologize. I promised I paid attention, but it's been a while. I believe it took place in a gulag,
I think
and
you're
it was
right.
just so cold. The only time I felt that cold was when I read the secret. Well, from a book was when I read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which everyone should read. It's an amazing book. But there's a scene in which one of the characters is living in New England during the winter in a barn with no insulation, and the description is just so cold.
Yeah,
So, and I don't like being hot, but I also don't like being cold. So, I remember many other things from that class, but one of the things was Hunger Angel and Herta Muller and being horribly cold. And she showed Chungking Express,
yeah,
which I had never seen, nor have I seen since, but I remember it.
yeah. I think
So,
wasn't that movie had what I remember vividly from that movie was the song California Dreaming, like played over and over as like a motif.
it did, and
Yeah.
I am not a big music person, so I was aware of that, but I didn't like I knew who Mama Cass was because of Scooby Doo. Because in the Scooby Doo Mysteries, which was their hour long, where they had a guest star every week, she was in that. And I remember seeing it as a kid, and I asked my mom, like, well, who's that? And she's like, oh, she's a singer, was it the Mamas and the Papas and all of that? So I was able to pull that out of my head after like, what is that song? To someone in the class because I was woefully ignorant. But I don't know. That was very. And didn't the main character, like, live in people's houses without them knowing?
I think so. I'd have to go back and rewatch that. It's been so long since I've seen it.
She's definitely a stalker. She may have been a serial killer too.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's some shady stuff. So, and we may get into this a little bit later, but do you want to give just like a couple lines? Like, what is your writing process? Do you, because of course you're a public school teacher, so you've got tons and tons and tons of free time, at least, 13 hours every day that's unencumbered. Do you just write in a relaxing fashion? Do you stay up till 2 a.m.? Do you have to get really depressed? Like, what's your system?
So I definitely do not stay up until 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. So honestly, back when I was like, again, still like in college getting my undergrad, I would have been up late writing. Now really it's kind of like however it hits me. Like if I have an idea in the moment, I'm pulling out my notepad on my phone and kind of jotting it down so I can revisit it later. Yeah, I guess as far as like feeling wise, again, it's kind of like whatever strikes me. If I'm feeling, it's kind of like, I guess my writing now has been kind of based on like modern, I guess, experiences. Like the poems I'm writing now is kind of rooted in like my experiences in education and as a teacher. So yeah, I guess it's kind of based on that.
So you said that you like pull out your phone. You don't carry a typewriter with you and just
I
like start banging away when something happens.
If someone wants to donate an old typewriter to me, I'll gladly accept it. Anyone who's listening out there, I would love to do that. I do have a couple notebooks that I keep in my backpack, but sometimes like if I'm like out at the store or something, obviously I don't have it with me, but yeah, I do write in a notebook. So like at school, when during my creative writing class, like obviously we can't have our phones out. So instead of me pulling out my phone, you want to like model and you want to get the behavior that you're teaching. So like that's why I have a notebook too, is so that way I'm not on my phone. So I don't yeah, I expect them to not be on there. So it's kind of like a little hybrid, I guess, process.
There is well, he's written an adult novel as well, but mainly young adult writer named Jeff Sentner, who wrote an amazing book. And it's not, I don't know, today's not a good day for my head. I cannot think of the title of the book, but it's amazing, and it takes place at a boarding school in New England. And two students, I think maybe from Tennessee, Kentucky, or the Carolinas, they end up going there. It's a guy and a girl who are friends. And anyway, he, I believe, wrote that book on his phone while taking the bus to work, because he lives in a major city. Every day, wrote this entire book. And to me, that was just amazing. And I don't know if it's because I have like wide thumbs, but the thought of, I don't mind texting, and I text all the time. But if I have something complicated, which as you may know, because I've sent you long messages, I do it on Facebook because I can type on the keyboard and it's so much easier. Yeah. So the thought of like crafting anything on my phone, it's great that people can do it, but it fills me with fear.
I feel like for me, it's more like it's like out of necessity. Like if I don't have my notebook, I'm going to use my phone. If I don't have my phone, then I'm going to write it on the back of I don't know, a Dunkin' Donuts receipt or something like that. Whatever I have, and then I'll move it over to like Google Docs or something like that later. But it's more like what I have access to in the moment. But yeah, I get that. I hate typing with my thumbs too.
I just write on the walls, like wherever I am. If I'm inspired, I carry a pen and I just start, or writing on like the back of people's heads.
Bathroom stall graffiti.
I have a story about that, which is not as unseemly as it would sound. But that's another thing. We were talking before we started, I believe, about obscene phone calls and, thankfully how people don't really get them anymore. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like there's very little bathroom graffiti, at least where I'm going.
Yeah, I see that
maybe
too.
I'm going to the wrong places. So, I don't know. We are going to, I've never said this before, but we are going to take a break, which means that we're going to stop the recording for a moment and then pick up with our stories, because we're about to hit the mark where it will shut off if I don't stop it. So, just like making sausage, everyone just learned what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.